Hey everyone, it's Alex from Following Alex, and today I'm gonna film a Get Ready With Me, mostly because I want to talk about a topic near and dear to my heart. It's a topic that is definitely trending right now. It's definitely bothering people. So today's topic, what I want to talk about is eco-anxiety. So before I tell you why I want to talk about eco-anxiety, I'll give you an idea of what it is. Eco-anxiety directly relates to anything that causes worry, stress, or panic about the environment or the climate. So you might see where I'm going with this now that I've explained that. Very recently, the IPCC, so Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, released their 6th assessment report. I will link it down below. It's free for anyone to read. The full report I think is like 4,000 pages, but they do make a really nice summary. It's called Summary for Policymakers, and that's only 42 pages, I think. And it basically gives you a lowdown of what has happened up until this point, what the models are showing, and it gives you different pathways we can go on. So you hear a lot of people talking about that 1.5 degree marker that we want to stay below. They show you different pathways, like if the temperature were to rise 1.5 degrees, 2 degrees, 3 degrees, 4 degrees onward. They compare them all and show you what can happen. Definitely a great resource if you are interested in it to read. But if you are very anxious about the climate right now, if that is something that's making you bothered or really stressed out and you feel hopeless, then maybe sit on it and wait. But this video is not going to cause you to stress. I am here to give you hope and to try to calm that eco-anxiety, and that's exactly what I want to talk about. So since the release of this report, and honestly just lately, I've seen so many, like, not even just news articles, these are people who call themselves activists on social media sharing like clickbaity, triggering, fear-mongering titles and headlines and statements, and that is not activism and it is not productive. I'm totally welcome to have a discourse in the comments. Just make sure to keep it respectful, and you can also privately message me on my Instagram if you want to talk about it in private. I'm gonna really try to keep the peace and just discuss this because we have to talk about it. So I'm gonna talk about that topic in general, and at the end I will also give you some tips if you're dealing with eco-anxiety, because I definitely want to offer you something that can help you. The first thing I want to say is, yes, the damage we have done to the environment, we will see impacts from that. We will see a change in our climate, and you will see devastating things happen. However, there is also hope. Yes, both can be true. So when I talk about climate adaptation, I'm talking about adapting to the impacts or adapting to the new climate that we're going to see. And mitigation is preventing further damage or further intense change from the climate. As discouraging as it may be to hear about the impacts we've had on climate, to read about it, to learn about it, to have to acknowledge it, because we are in a climate crisis. But the climate crisis isn't to fear-monger you. The climate crisis is a wake-up call. It is, okay, we can't put it off any longer. It's been looming. We've done the research. We are seeing it. We need to act now. We're not threatening you to care. We are saying we need you to care. If you want life to be better for yourself, for anyone around you, for future generations, you need to care, and we need to act now. So when you see these clickbait headlines and news articles or these people making TikToks, oftentimes they give you these, horrible, scary, eco-anxiety driven statements, but that's it. They give you these statements, they talk about how bad the world is going to be in so many years. They talk about, most of it is also misinformation, by the way. When they give this information or misinformation, they don't provide productive conversation, they don't provide hope, and they don't provide solutions. That is not activism. Point blank period, that is not activism. And the reason I say that is because there are people out there working and committing their life and money, master's student, to help places and people adapt to climate changes we will see to mitigate further intense climate impacts. People are putting in the work. There are things you can be providing to give people hope, to help people. I don't want any more climate doom and gloom. Doom and gloom is not going to get the results or the action we need. Doom and gloom is going to make people, they're going to freeze and they'll probably shut it down, shut it all out, ignore anything else about the climate, refuse to learn, refuse to talk about it because they literally can't handle it. And I know some people are in that spot, and like I said, towards the end I'll offer more solutions to that. That impacts people who want change and are feeling hopeless. And then you have the impact on people that are kind of like on the fence, like they're starting to recognize that this is a real problem and they need to act. You are convincing them that there's nothing they can do, that the world is going to end, that doomsday is coming, and that they might as well just live it up and not care about anything because the world is coming to an end. That's not productive. That's not helping anybody. And the third person, the third type of person that you are influencing are people who do not believe in the climate crisis or refuse to acknowledge it or profit from it. You are giving them fuel. You are giving them an easy way out because they can suddenly say, yeah, I believe it, but as you said, there's no hope. And they will get more people just not caring and acting out of selfishness because you have not provided any type of solution or productive conversation. So now do you understand the damage? Your intent might be in the right place, but we are in a climate crisis and we care about action. We have to be brutally honest with that. I don't mean that in a bad way. Peace and love from my heart, everything that I'm saying. I'm ranting because I care, okay? Trust me, I'm ranting because I care. I just wanted to kind of talk about that so you understand where I'm coming from when I'm saying it's not activism. And I want to show you the damage so that before you share these triggering headlines, you kind of think twice about, one, if you've even fact-checked it, or two, if you're even in the position to share something like that right now. And that's what made me most mad about all these like posts and news articles. That report came out and the articles and clickbait and things were up instantly. The full report is 4,000 pages. Even if you read the summary report, which is only 42 pages, which is heavy, it's a lot of scientific jargon, it's just a lot to read. When did you read it and sit down and critically think about it before you posted that? And it's not just the individual, it's these news articles. You know, they came out so quick with those headlines. They were not worried about what they were putting out there. They were worried about being the ones that you clicked on. They were worrying about being the first in the Google search because they're making money that way. And it's a really crappy way to live, but that is our life. But we have to take responsibility and recognize that. And so the next point I want to talk about is if you want to be an activist, but you still want people to recognize the damage, what you should do. Because I'm not saying you can't ever share bad news. There is bad news. People need to be aware. People need to care. 100%. However, if you are going to share bad news, like if you share an article, for example, on Facebook, you share an article about some kind of animal going extinct because of habitat loss. What is stopping you from finding out why their habitat is being destroyed, finding nonprofits or just any kind of corporation that is actually trying to help that habitat or that species? What is stopping you from also providing that to people who are sharing this? Because if you don't have the time to look into that, then you don't really have the time to share that article. And I say that because if you do not have time to do proper research, fact-checking, or like having something productive to say on top of the share of information, you should not be sharing that information. You need to take responsibility. I totally get that we are living in this world where it's so easy to share something we read and we want to share it and things like that. But if you are sharing it with the intention of wanting to do good or wanting to make a difference, then you have time to care about it and do the extra work. If you're sharing just for clicks and likes, then maybe that's why you shared it in the first place. And you just have to admit that to yourself. I don't want it to sound mean or condescending. It's just a really serious topic. If you are not in a place to share an article, if you don't have time to do the research, you don't know how to do the research, but you still want to get it out there, start following activists and experts in the field who have proven themselves to be trustworthy and knowledgeable, and amplify their voices. Share their posts, or even add a quote when you share the post from them. You know what I mean? Amplify voices of experts, amplify voices of people doing the work if you don't have time to do the work. We are allies, we are not against each other, but we have to work in each other's best interest. When you're sharing fear-mongering information and doom and gloom, you're not working for the people wanting to make change. So if you kind of want me to recap, what I mean by that is do the extra work, If you're gonna share doom and gloom to get people's attention and to get them to take it seriously, that's fair, but make sure either it's a productive conversation, you are giving them more information to do their own research or look into solutions, you're offering a solution, or you are giving them hope. Say, okay, this looks really bad right now. It could get worse, but scientists have proven that if we stay below this amount of temperature rise, blah, 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 blah. Do you see how it's much more productive conversation? And it just comes down to taking responsibility for what we're sharing online. Social media came so fast. We were not ready for it. The world was not ready for it, and we know that. I think it's Sacha Baron Cohen. He gave a speech. I'll link it down below if I can find it. I loved it. It said, freedom of speech is not freedom of reach. And that is the danger with social media. Because you used to be able to say, spread misinformation and spread hate, and it would reach the room that you are in. Now, you can stand up in front of the whole world and say whatever you want to, and that is dangerous. We've seen it. I've done it too. I've shared it. I've argued with people, I've shamed people, and I have been wrong about my activism, and I admit that, and I've grown. So I am here to help you be a better activist because I want you on my team. So now that we've had that tough conversation, I do want to talk about how to deal with eco-anxiety because I'm still not ready. And I care about you, and I want you to figure out how to do it. So my first recommendation is to unfollow any news, businesses, newspapers, news companies. I don't follow them on social media. I've went as far to block some of them, or I mute certain keywords to prevent them from popping up. And I know this is not going to completely stop it, but it definitely helps. Because you do not want news infiltrating your timeline when that's not what you're going to look for. In saying that, I don't want you to forget about what's going on, and I don't want you to ignore it. I recommend following accounts that you can actually trust and believe when they talk to you about these kind of things. I always look at Carbon Brief. I'll link them down below. That's kind of like my daily climate news that I get. And when it comes to climate-related news, I usually follow Chicks for Climate on Instagram and Project Drawdown on Instagram. And Project Drawdown is also a website and a book that has so many resources. So I'm going to link everything I talk about. The next thing you can do to help your eco-anxiety, I'm going to say these two together because they kind of go together. I want you to align yourself with what you believe as well as find a community. So this will mean unfollowing and deleting people from social media. This will mean finding people that you can have productive conversations with. This means unfollowing people that are spreading doomsday headlines. And maybe they don't have any bad intention, but you still don't have to keep them on social media if it is really triggering you. And if you are really stressed about the environment, but you know that you are doing your part to help it, I want you to know that you are doing your best and that every action matters, and thank you. So another way is to get educated. You know more about how climate works, environmental science, the climate crisis, climate adaptation measures, climate mitigation measures, and things like that. Knowing more can help ease your mind. I have really found that because, like so many, I have felt like there's no hope, but that's not true at all. It's not. There's so many ideas and things that we can do, and we have such a good understanding now. So look into reading, like I said, Project Drawdown. I definitely recommend it. But just get educated so that when you do see this doom and gloom, you can recognize where they are cherry picking the information. So another bit of advice for tackling eco-anxiety is to use your power. Use your voice. Use your consumer power. And you do not need to share information to do this. You can easily make choices that have climate and the environment in mind. You can show up to protest. You can contact your government in your town or city or whatever. You can share and amplify experts and other activists' voices. You can do your part without having so much pressure on yourself. And my biggest piece of advice is if the eco-anxiety is really, really bad and it is harming you or hurting you or hindering you to an extreme extent, or even not extreme. It depends how accessible this is to you, but speak to a professional. Anxiety is anxiety, and it can come to a point where it's more serious than just a fleeting feeling or a negative emotion. I'm specifically covering eco-anxiety as an emotion, but we all know that anxiety comes in disordered forms, or forms of a disorder, I should say. So I hope you liked my Get Ready With Me. I'm just gonna give a little recap and say thank you. I know that this was kind of like a heavier subject, but I needed to address it because it's something that's bothering me too, and I know that this will reach the right people. So I just want you to be more mindful about what you share, be more mindful about how you share it, and if you really care about the environment, put in that little bit of extra work or amplify voices of people that deserve to speak about it. And I'm not saying you don't deserve to speak about it, but if you are not ready to have a conversation about all this data that you shared or the research that you should have done, share other people who are ready for that conversation, because we are reaching so many people. And my last bit of advice, or the last thing I want to say, is hold on to hope. Things can get better, things can be okay. We need huge change in like our systems and governments and the way we live, yes. But we all have power, and we will get through this climate crisis. When you surround yourself with the right community and you see the people working so hard, you will be so hopeful and so inspired. Thank you for watching, and I will not talk about a heavy subject for a little while because I know that it can be a little bit intimidating, and this probably could bring on some eco-anxiety itself, but I actually just wanted to try and offer some solution or productive conversation. So thank you for watching. Love you, love you, love you. If you like my channel, feel free to like and subscribe, and if not, at least you watched this video and I hope I helped you. Bye!